How's it going, everyone? This is MOS Tricks. In this video, we're going to be talking about things that I'd like to see changed or fixed in Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. So I do want to say first and foremost that there are a lot of good things about the game. Absolutely. The special effects, the voice lines, the characters, a lot of what they've already done with Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is phenomenal. But of course, with that being said, there are still a lot of things to be desired in this game. So first and foremost, I want to talk about the game mechanics. One of the things that started out to be super fun and super flashy about this game was the vanishing chains. Everybody thought it was super swaggy and so exciting when you got to do like 15 of them in a row. But then you realized that you had to do 15 of them in a row every single time you fought anybody good. And I will say that it was fun at the beginning, but then it became so annoying because if you made one mistake, and the mistake wasn't even that you got hit, the mistake is that you started a vanished chain and now you're fighting against a good player, and just like that, there goes all of your ki. In a lot of cases, I will say, although the game is not supposed to be balanced, this is something that is just not enjoyable, where you make one fatal mistake where you get vanished and now all of your ki is gone for the sake of not getting hit one time. And I really feel like there has to be some sort of counterplay to that, so it's not always happening so consistently. You can have a little bit of neutral, you throw out one wrong attack and now all of your ki is gone, or you're getting hit. In a lot of cases, it honestly feels like it makes more sense to just give in and allow yourself to get hit so you don't have to do this vanishing war over and over for the entire game. It's not fun to do, especially at the higher levels of play. I do know that Tapion and Trunks have the ability to do some sort of step dash to interrupt the vanish and actually get out of it, but they're like the only characters that can do this. I would love to see more characters either have the ability to get out of this, or even if there's like a universal mechanic that allowed us to interrupt the vanish chain in some sort of way, or if the vanish chain itself was changed where every single time you did a vanish it would go faster and faster, or if you had the ability to charge your vanish, so instead of having this chain that goes on forever, there's some sort of mix where if you charge it and somebody tries to go for their vanish, you can throw off their timing and potentially hit them, or if they think you're going to charge it, if you happen to go for that charge, they can now try and block it instead, and you can just get out of that situation versus having that be in it so frequently and for so long. The other major change that I'd like to see, and I know that this is a new mechanic so I can't be too hard on it, and that is the revenge counter. As far as I know, basically anytime I've used revenge counter, if I don't back up and throw out ki blasts, and even sometimes when I try to, I'm getting punished for landing a revenge counter. Yes, there is the counter to the revenge counter where they catch your hand and it does a little cutscene, and that's super exciting and cool and whatever, but the revenge counter in and of itself is actually pretty useless, and in some cases it's also kind of janky. There's been times where I've landed my revenge counter and hit my opponent and they just stood there like nothing happened, and I feel like that's a bug. They don't get pushed back, they're not in any sort of hit stun, they just take it to the face and say okay, and then I get punished. It just doesn't make any sense. In my opinion, the only way a revenge counter should get punished is if they get the revenge counter with the cutscene. Other than that, if you happen to land it, it should push them far enough away that you can at least block or move. It doesn't make any sense to get punished for landing a revenge counter, in which case nobody wants to use that move. Next, I want to talk about super counter, and this is a very touchy subject because a lot of players will say that this is a very hard move to pull off, and if you happen to land it, it's a skill reward, so it should be left alone. You shouldn't be losing any skill stocks or taking ki for this, but genuinely I think it does need to be tweaked. When being used against single hit moves like trying to get out of a vanish chain, I can fully respect it not taking any skill stocks or any ki or anything like that because you have one shot to do it perfectly. However, if you are using a very fast character, I'll say like Daispo, or you're using Hot Jiren as we like to call him, these characters hit so fast that you can get out of their combos actually easier with super counter versus a character like Broly because he hits so much slower, so trying to time a super counter is much more difficult. But against these fast characters that are supposed to be stronger, more devastating, whatever you want to call it, they actually get punished for being so fast because since they throw out so many attacks, you have more opportunities to use your super counter. And since some of these characters attack so fast, you don't really need to be that accurate with your super counters to break their combos, and it can be very annoying because as soon as you get something going, super counter comes out and now you're just getting reversed. And so I think super counter should be adjusted in one of two ways. One should be that super counter should take some sort of resource. One thing that we haven't seen in the game yet is that it could take some of the meter of skill stock. So instead of taking an entire skill stock or two skill stocks, it takes half a skill stock. Or the other option, which might sound like a bit of a hot take, but if you are getting punched in the back, you should not be able to use super counter at all. Instead, revenge counter should be the option that you have to use to get out of combos when you're being hit in the back. It takes two skill stocks stocks. It's very easy to use and it'll instantly get you out of that situation. And here's the kicker. As of right now, there is absolutely no reason to try and protect your back. And I say this because you can so easily get out of so many things when people are punching you in the back with super counter. If you had to protect your back, your skill stocks would actually have value besides just transforming and then using them to buff your character to Kingdom Come. Because once you are as strong as you can possibly be, all you're doing is spamming buffs. And your skill stocks then kind of become useless unless you want to go into instant sparking constantly or use explosive wave if you happen to have it. But if revenge counter actually worked behind you and in front of you, then you could have a reason to be at max power with your character and still care about having skill stocks and still care about reflecting ki blasts. And this is something that would simultaneously fix the next issue that I have with the game. And that is the fact that no combos in the game are real. And they are all not real because vanishing exists, and that's totally fine because if you vanish, then that's great on you. But because super counter exists and you never have to worry about your resources as far as getting out of anything. Because guess what? The game would be much more satisfying and much more fulfilling if you played neutral, you outplayed your opponent, you got behind them, you made them exhaust all of their skill stocks because they weren't being careful and didn't have good positioning or defense, and then you got behind them and you had the opportunity to do a real combo to do serious damage. Because if you were able to do all of that, this would mean that you are literally outplaying your opponent, in which case it would not matter which character they are playing as. You could play as Tien versus Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta and get behind him and make him waste his skill stocks trying to get you off of his back. And then the fourth time or third time or whatever it happens to be, when you get behind him, you know for a fact that he is screwed because you played better than he did. This is a universal change that would balance the game without having to change any of the characters. Just think about how sick it would be if you're playing a character like 18 or you're playing a character like Kid Gohan or something like that, and you happen to just be able to get behind the opponent with your stepping, you're able to vanish and get behind them, you're using vanishing assaults and getting behind them, and you're doing your combos, you're not dropping combos, and you're forcing them to drain all of their resources, and then you can do serious damage no matter what character you're playing as, versus saying, oh well, they're gonna do super counter, and as soon as they get out of this, they're going to waste my entire sparking meter, and then they're going to just kill me because they're playing as Gogeta and I'm playing as Krillin. Do I think for a single second that Krillin should be able to beat Gogeta? Absolutely not. However, do I think that a player who is better, who protects their back and makes good decisions and has good neutral and is able to get behind their opponent consistently, do I think they should be able to beat Gogeta with Krillin? Absolutely. And of course, if the skill gap is wide enough, yes, a Krillin player can beat Gogeta, but I'm talking about at the highest level where both players are only going to lose if they make a huge mistake. And in this case, as far as how the game is right now, it's very hard to make a massive mistake where you're playing as a character that is multiple tiers higher and you'll still actually lose. And I'll say, at least for me, this would make it feel like it's worth practicing movement and defense and countering and combos and all those things, just if we were to happen to fix super counter in that way and then make it that revenge counter also work behind you. Of course, it might be a lot to ask, but this would be one of the best ways to balance the game without having to change all the stats of all the characters or give characters extra life bars or give certain characters more strength or less strength in ranked mode. You just have a universal skill set where if you are good, you can take advantage of it. Of course, yes, I know a lot of you might say, well, the universal skill set right now is not dropping your vanishes. It's like, well, it's just not fun to do that. It does not feel skillful anymore. It felt cool and exciting at the beginning, but now every single time you fight someone, it's 7 to 10 or 15 vanishes in a row. It's just not fun anymore. It just becomes a bunch of party games wrapped into one, and we're calling it a arena fighter or a fighting game. It's not fun to constantly have to do vanishes. It's just not. But anyways, as far as the combo game goes, it's actually very satisfying to get your presses properly and do your squares into triangles and use all the different parts of your character's kit, but it's not fun when you get partway into a combo and you say, hopefully they don't just go for a super counter for no reason, because I have to be on high alert to just vanish or super counter them right back, in which case there's really no point in learning some sort of combo route with your character. You're either going into flying kicks and opening them up, or you're going for the Senju sweeps, since that's the thing that's kind of going around right now. You get the square into the down triangle and you have a great day. But if you can super counter literally everything, it's like, well, now people are just going to do cheesy shit because there's no point in going for a combo if they know you can break it. Why would I hit you with 15 hits hits to try and do a combo, when I could just do the same thing over and over again and make it way harder for you. And that just dulls the entire game, and it makes it very mundane and very boring, and for a lot of people it becomes cheesy and it's not fun. I will say that if these couple of things did get changed or adjusted in some way, the combat in this game would be so much more fun. If you're playing at a very, very low level or a absolute beginner level and you're just kind of mashing for the sake of mashing, none of these things are going to bother you, and I fully understand that and I fully respect that. But if you are someone who's playing a little bit of ranked, or you've been grinding for a while with your friends and you are just naturally getting better and you're reacting to things better, you're going to run into these things that are just very mundane and boring. So these changes could spice it up. Like I said, adding the ability to charge your vanish or break the vanish chain in some way, or have it go faster and faster so it's harder to do so it doesn't last forever, or changing the super counter, or just making it so there's an actual reason to grind combos and even main a character. Because even like right now we have 182 characters and there's more coming, and the problem is that if you learn how to play one, you basically know how to play all of them. You really do. And I'm not saying that it has to be as complex as Tekken, where we're gonna have swing inputs and all kinds of crazy stuff as well. It doesn't have to be that crazy, but it would feel nice to be able to pick up a character like 18 or Kefla or Teen Gohan and feel like, yo, these characters are vastly different in their combo game or their combo routes, because you actually have the ability to practice them and do them for real versus getting 5 hits in and then getting super countered. But anyways, those are going to be my biggest asks right now as far as fixes or changes for the game. Genuinely, of course, there's a whole online and the rage quitting stuff, and we're not going to talk about that in every single video. Just, I wanted to talk about the core mechanics of the game. And guys, let me know down below, what are the things that you like or dislike or you'd like to see changed as well. And once again, this is MOS Tricks saying thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you on the next one.